How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I wanted to talk about tires, mainly the tires that I put on this car and what I have gone through in my experience. So the first tires that came on when I bought this car, I don't think they were the factory tires, but they were the Continental Contact Extreme Sports, something like that. However, though, they were 245 all around, so 245 front and rear. And so for my experience for like drag racing, if you will, they pretty much didn't hook worth a crap. Even when the car shifted, it would chirp in the next gear it'd go into. So that was a big no-no for me. They did last a good amount of time though, so I'll give them that. Um, the next tire I got was a big mistake, but it was the Pirelli P0 Nero. However, I upsized it to 275/40, 20 of course. And yeah, those were better, but because they didn't chirp throughout every gear, but they weren't that much better, honestly. Not for the price, at least. The only thing I'll really give for them, actually, two things, is they lasted a good amount of time. I got about 20,000 miles out of them, and they handle pretty well in the rain. So that was one thing that I did like about them, and that I'll give them that. Was they lasted a good amount of time for a performance tire, and handling in the rain was something I was impressed with because here where I am, it's either sunny or it rains, so it's about all that does here. Then after that, I believe I got Nitto Invos, which were some of the worst tires I've ever put on this car. They didn't even make it to 8,000 miles. 275 40/20 as well. They hooked maybe ever so slightly better than the Pirellis. In the rain, I felt they weren't as good, but for the price I paid, they were nearly the same price as the Pirellis. And for the amount of time they lasted, I really don't recommend them at all. And then after that, I got Atturo AZ850s, and those for the money have been the best tire I've put on the car. They lasted me about a year, which I don't remember the mileage, but none of these other tires lasted me that much other than the Pirellis. And for the performance of the price, they were about 100 a piece. They hooked well enough for a street tire. Um, I really am going to go back to those for daily driving. Eventually, I'll invest in a drag pack for when I want to actually drag race. But for daily driving, I would recommend those entirely. And those were 275/40/20s as well for the rear. Then I've decided, well, I wanted to try something the best that I could get on the car without going to a drag radial at the time. So that was these guys right here, apparently. These are the Nitto NT05, not the R's, just a regular 05. So these are technically a max performance summer tire. 200 traction, or sorry, 200 tread or double A traction. And honestly, I was not that impressed. They're okay at first, but honestly, they haven't been lasting that long. The middle is almost gone, and I think I've had them on maybe 4,000 miles, and they're in 275/40/20s as well. But 200 tread wear is pretty low. But I figured whatever as long as they grip, but they honestly don't even do that well. On a 40 roll, I can spin them pretty easy, which is disappointing because the Aturos would chirp but not spin. They would at least push me forwards. These guys, it's like I'm Mustang mode if I try to do a 40 roll. Even 50s gets kind of sketch. So I pretty much have to stick to 60, which is no good. So obviously, trying to do like a 0 to 60 is useless. And for the time and the money, they were double the price of the Aturos, actually more than double. So I was disappointed. So I'm just going to stick with Aturos for daily driving and get a drag pack. So that's just my opinion on those tires for the rear. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, if you got a bigger size, well, bigger size doesn't always equate to more traction. It helps to a point. What helps most with traction is the compound. And honestly, I mean, I'm not a tire manufacturer, so I can't know the compounds. But I was just going by off the ratings and trying to keep a fairly reasonable street tire on because I rather not daily drive drag radials. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on the tires that I put on the car. And honestly, I would not put anything like all season. I wouldn't put an all season on this type of car. Keep at least a summer tire or a radial. That's just my opinion, unless you want to go into a wall. So then let's get on to the front. So, since most people care about drag racing, they don't really care about the front. But I will say that if you're one of the few that cares about handling, I would stick to a summer tire of some sort for daily driving. When I had this car, I had the Continentals, which I mean were okay for the front. They lasted a good amount of time too. So honestly, if you want to put them on the front, fine. I can't remember the traction or tread wear rating at all, so I don't remember. Then I had P-Zeros on the front, which lasted a good amount of time, handled well in the rain. So if you want to put those in the front, I see no issues with that for daily driving. Then after that, I got these Nexen, they're Enfair SU1s, and I've been using the stock tire size, which is a 245/45/20 in the front. And honestly, they handle and perform just as well as the P-Zeros, in my opinion, while being cheaper. I've had them on for quite a while, and they still got plenty of tread left. And I run a staggered setup, so I can't switch them out. And I know a lot of people that drag race don't really give a crap about tires on the front, but honestly, I like to take turns in my car too, just because it's fun. It's not gonna be like a track god car, but I just figured, what can we do? And according to the G-force meter on the car, I've been able to pull 0.99 Gs, which is pretty good for a, you know, Charger boat that's not really meant to corner, but I mean, it can do pretty well. It's impressive considering I've just kept good tires on the car. It's still stock ride height and the stock Bilstein suspension, so yeah. I'd recommend these actually. These have been pretty good for me and lasted a while. I would not recommend, like I said earlier, all seasons on the front of these cars unless you don't take turns at like hard at all, like you slow down a lot because if it rains or you take a turn too hard, you're Mustang moding without a doubt. So that's pretty much my opinion. I know that from experience because I had some all season in the front and I tried to take a turn and definitely did not go where I wanted it to go. It didn't crash, but definitely scared the shit out of me. And I will always keep summer tires on this car. Need the best grip you can get, especially on a performance car. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that. It's just my little review on the tires that I've had. So yeah, have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. And I'll do my best to answer with the best of my abilities. So have a nice rest of your day. Take care.